The moment Arwa realized there was no place card with her name, her chest tightened as if the bright wedding hall had suddenly lost all its air. Around her, sunlight streamed through tall glass windows, bouncing off white flowers and soft pastel drapes, filling the daytime ceremony with warmth that felt painfully out of reach. Laughter floated between tables, chairs scraped gently across the floor as families reunited, and somewhere at the front, her younger sister glowed in bridal white. Yet Arwa stood alone near the entrance, clutching her small purse, feeling invisible in a room bursting with joy. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet ways strangers can change lives, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Arwa had imagined this day so differently. She had pictured herself sitting beside relatives, laughing softly, maybe wiping happy tears during the vows. Instead, she felt like an afterthought, someone who had slipped through the careful planning of a perfect wedding. It wasn't that her sister didn't love her. Life had simply rearranged things cruelly over the years. After their parents passed away, responsibilities fell unevenly. Arwa became the quiet one, the fixer, the woman who always adjusted her own needs so others could shine. Somewhere along the way, people stopped noticing when she needed space too. The usher, flustered and apologetic, gestured vaguely toward an empty chair near the back that had no table, no companions, and no clear view of the ceremony. Sitting there felt like accepting a public label she wasn't ready to wear. Alone, unattached, unimportant. Her fingers trembled as she considered it, her eyes burning as she watched couples settle into their seats, leaning toward each other, sharing smiles meant only for two. That was when she noticed him. He was standing a few steps away, tall but slightly hunched as if used to making himself smaller in crowded rooms. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7, held his hand, swinging it absent-mindedly while observing the decorations with curious eyes. The man's suit was neat but modest, his expression calm yet guarded, the kind of face shaped by responsibility rather than ease. When his eyes met Arwa's, there was a flicker of recognition, not familiarity, but understanding. The kind that came from knowing what it felt like to be on the edge of something beautiful, afraid you didn't quite belong. Without making a scene, he shifted closer. He didn't speak in the usual way people do when they want something. Instead, his posture changed, his presence opening like an invitation rather than a request. With a small nod toward the empty seat beside him and his son, he made it clear that she could sit there, that she wouldn't be alone if she didn't want to be. In that silent moment, his meaning was unmistakable. He was offering cover, dignity, a temporary belonging in a room that had stripped hers away. Arwa hesitated, pride and gratitude warring inside her. Then she sat. The chair felt sturdier than the lonely one at the back. The little boy smiled up at her, all daylight and missing teeth, and returned his attention to the ceremony as if her presence had always been part of the plan. The man relaxed slightly, his shoulders easing, as though helping her had helped him too. From where she sat now, Arwa could see her sister clearly, radiant and happy, unaware of the small heartbreak unfolding quietly among the guests. As the ceremony continued, Arwa felt herself slowly breathe again. The music swelled. The vows echoed with promises of patience and devotion. She wondered when her own life had become so quiet, so careful. Years earlier, she had been engaged once, full of plans and color. But life had intervened, as it so often does. Caring for sick parents, postponing dreams, choosing stability over risk. When her engagement ended, there was no dramatic fight, only a gentle drifting apart that left her standing still while everyone else moved forward. Beside her, the man watched the ceremony with a thoughtful expression. His son leaned against him, comfortable and secure. Arwa noticed the way he kept one hand resting protectively on the boy's shoulder, the instinctive gesture of someone who had learned to be both parent and anchor. She didn't know his story, but she could feel its weight, the kind carried by people who had lost something precious and chosen to keep going anyway. The reception that followed spilled into a sunlit garden filled with round tables, white linens, and soft music playing under the open sky. Arwa remained with them, no longer feeling like she was intruding. Plates were passed, glasses filled, and conversations flowed easily. Other guests glanced her way, assuming she belonged exactly where she sat. The simple illusion of togetherness changed everything. She smiled more freely, laughed when the little boy made a joke about the cake, and for the first time that day, she felt present rather than tolerated. As the afternoon unfolded, Arwa learned small things through observation alone. The man, whose name she later learned was Idris, had a quiet kindness about him, the kind that didn't announce itself. He listened more than he spoke. He paid attention. When his son tired, Idris adjusted his chair so the boy could rest more comfortably. When Arwa reached for a glass of water, he noticed and passed it without fuss. There was no performance, no expectation. Just ease. The weight Arwa had carried into the wedding began to lift, replaced by something fragile but hopeful. She realized how starved she had been for simple companionship, for being seen without having to explain herself. This man hadn't asked questions or offered pity. He had simply made space. Later, as guests mingled under the bright afternoon light, Arwa walked with them through the garden paths. She watched her sister laugh with friends, completely unaware of the small kindness that had saved Arwa from a painful memory. Instead of resentment, Arwa felt relief. The day no longer belonged to loss or comparison. It belonged to unexpected grace. Idris's son ran ahead, chasing petals blown loose by the breeze. Idris followed at a measured pace, his eyes always tracking the boy's movements. Arwa walked beside him, matching his rhythm. She thought about how courage often looks like this, not grand gestures, but quiet decisions to reach out even when life has taught you to hold back. As the sun dipped slightly, casting softer light across the celebration, Arwa felt something shift inside her. Not love, not yet, but possibility. She realized that being alone at this stage of her life didn't mean being finished. It meant she was still open, still capable of connection, still worthy of being chosen, even if only for a chair at a wedding. The afternoon ended with laughter, photographs, and the gentle exhaustion that comes from emotional days. When it was time to leave, Arwa stood near the exit again, but this time she wasn't trembling. Idris and his son were beside her, gathering their things. The little boy waved cheerfully before heading out into the sunlight. Idris paused, offering Arwa a look filled with gratitude and something deeper, a shared acknowledgement of what the day had meant. They parted without promises or expectations. No dramatic declarations, no exchanged numbers in a flurry of hope. Just a quiet understanding that kindness had passed between them, and that sometimes, that is enough to change the direction of a day, or even a life. In the days that followed, Arwa found herself returning to that moment again and again. Whenever self-doubt crept in, whenever she felt overlooked at work or forgotten in social gatherings, she remembered the steady presence of a stranger who had chosen to see her. It reminded her that she didn't need to shrink herself to fit into spaces that didn't make room. There were still people in the world willing to pull up a chair. Weeks later, by chance or perhaps by the gentle design of fate, Arwa saw Idris again at a small daytime community event. This time, there was no confusion, no need for silent agreements. They recognized each other easily, smiles coming without effort. The conversation that followed was simple, unforced, rooted in mutual respect rather than desperation. Arwa realized then that the wedding hadn't been an ending to her loneliness, but a beginning to her courage. Life didn't transform overnight. There were still quiet evenings, still moments of doubt. But something fundamental had changed. Arwa no longer saw herself as the woman left standing at the door. She saw herself as someone worthy of invitation, of presence, of being chosen, even in small ways. And Idris, too, carried that day with him. It reminded him that opening space in his already full life didn't weaken him. It strengthened him. His son spoke often of the nice woman from the wedding, the one who laughed at his jokes and walked beside them in the garden. To Idris, that memory became proof that healing didn't require forgetting the past, only believing there was room for more. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of a moment when kindness changed everything, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who may need them more than they realize. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment the word hope if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can rewrite someone's story. Arwa never forgot the wedding where she was supposed to sit alone. Not because of the pain, but because of the unexpected mercy that met her there. In a room full of celebration, It wasn't the vows or the music that changed her most. It was a single, silent gesture from a man who understood what it meant to feel out of place and chose, in the middle of a bright ordinary day, to make someone else belong.